Okay guys, welcome back to another video on Honest Waffles. And today I'm going to be discussing the concept of why do some women go from being perfect angels to later becoming wild and loose. And I hope you can understand what I mean by that. Obviously I have to substitute a couple words there from what I would usually use in my day-to-day speak, because the YouTube overlords unfortunately don't like certain words being said. But just to break down what I mean by this question, I'm sure most of you are already on the same page, but for anyone who isn't, you've probably seen this kind of woman in your own life, and she can make this transition from being a perfect angel to becoming wild and loose in as short of a space in about 2 years. Like, you might have seen a woman in school walking around, you think she's quite cute and she's innocent, she's pure, she's just a normal, innocent girl, and you'd be more than happy to date her. But then, a few years later, let's say that you went to different colleges and you hadn't seen her for a few years, you didn't have her on any social medias, but then all of a sudden, a couple years later, you see her Facebook come up or her Instagram pop up. And she looks different, very different to say the least. And this is just the visual aspects, but she's maybe dyed her hair a few different colours, even some of the unnatural colours, blue, green, purple, whatever you might think. She's got a couple piercings, tattoos, all of this stuff. She's clearly changed. She's not the same person as she was beforehand. And that's just a visual, but as for if you ever meet her in person again and you see a difference in terms of her behaviour, you'll see that her behaviour's also changed, that she's probably been with a lot of guys. You might have seen her posting on her Instagram story or Snapchat story, going to all of these nightclubs, completely going insane, losing the plot, going abroad to Magaluf, Ibiza, all of these party hotspots. In other words, she's a completely different person to the one that she was before, and now, in her current state, you as a man would never in a million years want to be associated with her, let alone date her. Put simply, she's completely lost the plot. And that's a lot of women nowadays. I'm sure you've not just seen it once, but a few times. And I'm going to be breaking down in this video why that happens. And just one more point before I wrap up this intro. The chart on the left-hand side is what I believe is an accurate depiction of what a lot of women's body counts also follow the trajectory of nowadays. And as you can see, it is a very steep, exponential growth. So it's not a linear growth. A lot of people think that it would be a linear growth, that it would just go up like a staircase as a woman gets older, but it's not. It's completely different to that. It's more often than not an exponential growth, and the rate of insanity increase will only increase exponentially as most of these women get older. And I'm going to be breaking that down in this video as well. So we'll get into the main bulk of the content now. But just quickly, before moving into that, if any of you guys find value in this information that I'm putting out and you think that I'm entertaining as a content creator, then the best way to support me is by purchasing a face rating and looks maxing package, which the link will be down in the description below. I've sold thousands and thousands of these, plenty of 5-star reviews, so if you want to support me as a creator and get a good amount of value in exchange for a small amount of money in return, then the link will be below for that. But now let's get into the main bulk of the actual content. So to answer the question, why are they exponential? Why are most female partner counts exponential? Well, I think this chart that I've got on the screen now explains it, and I'm going to be filling in the blanks because this is the female dating timeline, and it basically shows the different stages of life women go through when it comes to their dating life. So for the first one, the first part of a woman's dating life will usually be her first boyfriend. Somewhere in about high school, she'll be 16, 17, 18, 19 years old at the latest, and this will be her first boyfriend. And chances are this will be the man that she loses her V card to. So just to clear up one misconception, no, women are not losing their V card on Tinder or dating apps. That doesn't happen. That's saved for later when they properly go wild. But for the most part, most women, the one saving grace in terms of their dating life and conserving their purity is that they are at least living the front half of their dating life when they haven't got much experience. They are dating properly. They are actually waiting for relationships, waiting for a good guy, and they are at least getting some level of commitment and seeing a guy long term in order for them to potentially give the biggest gift that they would ever give to a man. The first time, obviously, is more important than the 50th or the 70th sexual experience that a woman has with a guy. So most women in this part, they are dating properly, and it is with their first boyfriend. And they're doing that because a lot of women in this position, when they have that first boyfriend, they'll be like, oh, I'm nervous, I'm shy, it's my first time, I'm worried, it might be painful, I'm scared. So more often than not, they will demand that the boyfriend wait a little bit of time, make sure that they're both comfortable for them to actually have that experience. So at least for that part, you know, it is like quite pure and beautiful. But as for the next part, after that first boyfriend fails, and obviously not all of them will fail, but the majority of them are, and at least the women that you're going to be dating in the real world, so in terms of the effective dating market, most of the women that you will meet and see on Tinder, just by very nature of the selection bias, will be falling through this pipeline. So that's not to say that some women out there will fall off on the first rung of this chart, because obviously if a woman is extremely pure and she meets the man of her life on the first rung and then they get married together, she's not on the dating market anymore. But the older you get as a man, the deeper and deeper down each of these layers the women go, and essentially the worse the dating market gets, because this is looking at the effective dating pool. So as for the second rung, the second layer, this is when a woman, you know, has a couple more boyfriends or situationships, as I like to put it, and she's not got her V cards anymore. So in this point in her dating life, she is more likely to give out sooner before she's even in a proper relationship with a guy. So she might just be in the talking stage with a guy, and you know, she wants to make sure that the intimacy will be as good as it was with her first partner, and that curiosity is getting the better of her. She has just broken up with her first boyfriend, and she's keen and ready to go straight again, because she has now been thrown in the deep end. She's no longer got that main man in her life. She's lonely, so she wants to fire up the dating life straight away again and get back out there, find a replacement essentially. And because she's got not the first time to lose anymore, she will give out quicker. She will be more willing and ready to go the full length with you as a guy, because she's not under the pressure of being in that first time. And that's the second layer. But even then, I don't think this is too bad. Like, if you're a guy and you get a relationship and eventual long-term life partner, starting a family with a woman from this layer, I don't think that's too bad. It's only once we get into the third, fourth, and God forbid fifth layer that it starts to become a warning sign and a red flag as a guy. You don't want to be interacting with any of these women down here. So given that, we might as well get into the next layer. And this is for the women that have those 1 to 2 boyfriends. They're not satisfied with them. They, you know, have these situationships and they're not satisfied. So now they move into the last, to the next layer, sorry. And this layer is when they install online dating apps. Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, you know, you've heard of all of these before. And the reason she's kind of forced into going this avenue is because instead, on the first 2 rungs, she would never have dreamed of downloading these dating apps, because she thinks, oh, they're just for where weirdos go. I'm not that desperate, so I'm fine just meeting the guys in my own life, and the guys from school, my social circle, friends of friends, things like that. Honest methods of meeting people. But that's only a finite number, and if she's had those 3-4 boyfriends so far, she's likely at this point in her life ran out of at least the desirable options. That's not to say that she won't have a bunch of simps and guys she's put in the friend zone from her school or social circle that have, been in the previous layers. But after all of those good options have been exhausted from the genuine methods of approaching, she kind of realizes she has no other option other than installing Tinder. And more often than not, the women that I've seen install Tinder, they usually do it because their friends encourage them to, and they tell them to download it. Because the woman who has had those 2-3 previous boyfriends, she complains to her friends and being like, oh, there's no good guys that I can meet anymore, what shall I do? And then the woman and these women friends who are further down the pipeline, they will want to drag their purer friend down with them. So they're all trying to sink as low as they possibly can with one another. And the one who's already on Tinder and has had a lot of experience, bad experience from there, she will try to drag her purer friend along that pipeline with her, so then they can all be as bad as each other. And I don't know why they do that, but that's what I've often seen. Most women on Tinder are there because their friend has set up the profile for them. That's just my experience. But anyway, carrying on with this layer of the totem pole. So after the purer woman installs Tinder, this is perhaps the biggest turning point and where it all goes properly downhill, because this is the first point in her dating life where she just gets completely inundated and bamboozled with an unseen level of attention. Like, forget Instagram, she might have 50 likes from her close friends and maybe 1 or 2 simps that are thirsty and give her compliments on there. But Tinder is a night and day difference. We've all seen the experiments before. As soon as a woman, even if she's an average woman, in fact, even if she's a below average woman, the first day that she goes on Tinder, she automatically gets 99 plus matches. And I've even seen some experiments where they've properly totted them up, and we're literally talking in the hundreds, if not thousands. That's how much attention these women, even average to below average women, are getting on Tinder. But I don't need to explain that because the vast majority of you watching already know that. However, the point is on this is that when she gets all of that attention, it inflates her ego, and then she thinks, right, I'm going to try to go for the creme de la creme of all of these matches that I've got. I'm going to try and date the top 10%ers, because why would I bother trying to talk to and message all of the average to below average guys when, I might as well flake on those. I'm better off only dealing with the top 10%ers, because of course I'm going to go for the best flavour ice cream rather than plain vanilla, if that makes sense. It's pretty logical when you think about it from this standpoint and you try to put yourself in the woman's shoes. However, the problem is, by doing that, is that for the most part, when she ends up meeting these top 10% guys and she goes on dates with them and eventually back to their place, she doesn't realise it, but she's actually fallen into a trap. And that trap is that these top 10% guys, they were just pretending to actually like her, but in reality, they only came for one thing. And as soon as they see her with no clothes off, then the very next morning, I'm very sorry to say if any women are watching this, but if you're a woman in that position, chances are you're not going to hear back from that top 10% man again, because he always knew that he was way above you, and this is the thing with top 10% guys, is that when they try to date top 10% women, they will have to deal with certain degrees of barriers to entry and flakiness. However, these top 10% men realise that if they date a middle 50%er, the level of compliance and investment will be significantly easier. So a lot of top 10% of men, as unfortunate as it is, will end up reducing their standards significantly because they would rather have that constant, easy supply of no investment, little effort needed to get the pleasure that they want, rather than dealing with the games which the higher value top 10% women are putting up all of these barriers in order for the top 10% of men being able to pin those down. I hope the point that I've just made there makes sense. But anyway, getting back to the main pipeline that I'm talking about in this video, for these average women, once they go out with these top 10% of men and they get unknowingly tossed around. And this is another thing, is that a lot of these average women, the first time that they go onto Tinder, they are aware, at least minutely, of the risks and dangers. And for the first few dates and guys that they see, they will be quite cautious. And when they're swiping through, some women, not all of them, but some women do go into it with the mindset of, okay, I know that I shouldn't be swiping on the players, the guys who look like they're just out for short term and they're not going to take me seriously. And there are some obvious clear signs for that. If a guy has a bunch of shirtless photos flexing in the gym mirror and has his arm wrapped around a bunch of girls, then chances are the woman would correctly identify that guy as a player, and he's not going to be with her long term if the girl ever meets up with him. However, they're not the danger in the initial stage. The real danger in the initial stage is the guys who look like they would be serious, like they look like they would be a genuine good guy, a nice boyfriend to have, and he's attractive at the same time. He's still in that top 10%, but he doesn't look like he's a player. And that's the trap that a lot of women end up falling into, is that it's these guys who look like they would be a good partner and would be with the woman long term. However, their actual intentions, which they can keep as secret as they like because it's online dating, everything's anonymous, those are the dangerous ones, because the pure women will unknowingly go with them thinking that they're going to lead to something, but in reality these guys were what's the phrase, sheeps in wolves clothing all along, and they were no different from all of the other wolves who openly displayed their playerishness by having the no top photos and festivals, yada yada yada. You understand the point I'm making. So this is how the women get sucked into the dangerous pipeline, and this more often than not ends up leading into the next stage, which is where she eventually reaches a breaking point. And because she has been screwed over this amount of times by guys who she thought were legit but actually turned out to be hiding their intentions, this is where she reaches the breaking point on online dating, and she says, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to embrace the casual culture and go wild, because I'm just going to live in this delusional fairy tale world. I might as well, like, if guys are going to use me anyway and treat me with little respect and not date me seriously, then I might as well embrace that and indulge in it as well, because at least if I indulge in it, then I'm going to go in there with no regrets, no fears, no expectations. And people often say that the enemy of enemy of happiness is expectations. So if I go into these situations with no expectations, then that means that I'm guaranteed to come out at least in some positive light, some hedonistic pleasure that I'll be able to extract from this experience. And this is what a lot of women end up going through. And this is what I've put in brackets, that this is where the floodgate has truly opened. And if you envision back to the graph that I showed on the very first slide, this is like the really shooting off part of the graph, where, you know, the first 3 stages, like the first boyfriend, the next couple, and even the first time she's installing Tinder, this is like all in sort of the lower stages. Oh, I might have to reverse the hand gestures there because I forgot that the camera is mirrored. But you get the point I'm making, that this is all like the early stages, these first few layers. Partner count of less than 10. However, once she reaches that level 10, and usually it is around 10, and this is where she does have the screw it attitude and embrace the casual culture, this is where it really takes off in terms of the exponential growth, and 10 soon turns into 20, 20 soon turns into 50, and then 50 soon turns into 100, 200, bonkers numbers, Mickey Mouse numbers. I've honestly heard women that have said that they've got partner counts of 200 before, so it's not insane and it's not far-fetched. This is reality. Obviously that's going to be a small percentage, but in terms of the women that at least live on this crazy roller coaster for a while to build up a partner count of 20, 30, the real exponential growth part of the graph, there are a lot of women, the majority I would say, who end up falling into this pipeline, especially when you tie this back to the point of the effective dating market, that the majority of women that you see on Tinder, they're going to be the most open ones, the ones that are in this screw it attitude, where they just want to try every little piece of ice cream possible. And the women who are, perhaps higher up this totem pole, they would not be the ones as compliant. They're a lot more cautious, so they're even harder to meet up with. So in terms of the effective dating market, most of the women that you see off Tinder are going to be the least pure of them all, the ones on this layer of the totem pole. However, finally, at least there is one semi-saving grace as we finally get into the last layer of the bottom layer of the female dating timeline. And that is after whether it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times that the woman has gone through this hedonistic lifestyle on Tinder, she actually comes to the realization, she realizes that there's no hope with the top 10%ers, and she realizes that she has to now settle for a beta. So it takes her that amount of time, that amount of experiences to finally come to the conclusion and actually join the same team as all of us. The stuff that me and you guys watching, have known all of this time, that this is how the game is and this is how it works, that the top 10%ers are just messing around all of this time. She comes onto the same team and reaches the same conclusion as us, that there is no hope with these top 10%ers, especially if she's an average woman. Maybe the top 10% of women would have a better chance with the top 10% of men, but for the average women, there is no chance that they would ever be able to get these top 10% men. And they reach a conclusion that now they are going to have to stop playing these games. They're going to have to finally pull out one of those guys from the friend zone that they've been leading on all of this time. And he's been saying that, this is partially the reason that she has gone on this journey for that long of a time, because the guys in the friend zone are partially to blame. Their patience and resilience, their willingness to put up with this amount of lack of respect is part of the reason and responsibility for why these women have reached this far down in the pipeline as it is. Because if these friend-zoned men actually had some self-respect and they didn't tolerate their dream girl just going completely insane, losing the plot on Tinder, then maybe the women will come to their senses sooner. But it's only because you as the beta male, the guy in the friend zone, is essentially being the safety net for her dating life. Then the fact that she's got that safety net there, it gives her a free pass to take all of these risks, go with these top 10%ers as many times as she likes, hope that just one of them sticks, but they never end up doing. And because you're always going to be there as that safety net, as the beta, it means that she's going to keep taking those risks, taking those gambles, because at the end of the day, the consequences are nothing. Because until the point it reached where you said, you know what, this is enough, I'm not going to tolerate it, that is when the safety net disappears, and that's the proper time that she would come to the realization that she shouldn't have been doing it all of that time.